You will make it through. The fitra is awake in you. With Quran and Sunnah by your side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through. You will make it through. The fitra is awake in you. With Quran and Sunnah on his side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through. With Quran and Sunnah on his side, here's a place where it will thrive. You will make it through.
Wa salat, wa salam ala, wa rasulullah. First of all, before we begin, I would like to apologize for being an hour late. That's late. I had to deal with some family issues, and I apologize. I'm never that late. So I apologize, but I had some issues going on. Y'all see this? Any moderators here? People in the waiting room? I can't see who they are, just a big thing on my screen. Why is that thing on my screen still? It's got to go. Wait a minute, let me move this over. Okay, I'm sorry. Ina alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salam ala, wa rasulullah. Let me welcome everybody to our Aqidah class. And again, I apologize for being late. I had to deal with some family drama, but alhamdulillah, it's over. And this is our Aqidah class. And before I start my Aqidah class, I want to remind everybody that we have a lecture tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Dr. Ibrahim Jamali. He's going to be covering the verses of the Quran that shows how the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam handled the fitna that his wives created. So you don't want to miss that class. That's going to be tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also I'm going to ask Dr. Jamali that question that we had on my Q&A show yesterday. What mathab is this? You know, remind me. Y'all write that down, Mina, to remind me to ask Dr. Jamali, what mathab is it that's telling that says women over the age of 40 shouldn't be married? I've never heard that, but we're going to get to the bottom of that. And that's why we have these brothers divorcing their wives before they reach 40 and marrying 20 and 30-year-old women. And these men are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. I wouldn't marry those men. But anyway, we'll talk about that with Dr. Jamali tonight at 9, inshallah. So today, we're covering the last chapter of Diluting Wal Bara, written by, this is the book, written by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid. And this last chapter addresses a horrific phenomenon that has impacted the whole world. And it's also one of the signs that the last hour is near. It's a sign that the war that's happening now is the beginning of the war against Islam. And this is the same-sex marriage crap, where the prophet said that homosexuality will be the norm and will be in abundance even amongst my people. And we do have these gay Muslim associations here. We do have masajids that are being operated by gay Muslims, LGBTQ. We have women leading the men and all of that. So this last chapter of the book is addressing that. And let me put the PowerPoint. There it is. Okay, so tonight we're going to be covering pages 542 through 544. And in this section of this chapter, Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid give suggestions as to how we can help the youth amongst us, how we can help the Muslim youth to navigate the challenges of LGBTQ, of gender issues, and all of that. Because again, even though the society that we live in is not a faith-filled society, even though we're surrounded by immorality, as Muslims, we still have to maintain the morals of Islam. We still have to aim high, to be maqasid, aim high, to have the best character, the best morals that we can have, because as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best amongst you are those who are best in character, best in values, and best in morality. So let's take a look and see what Sheikh Kareem has come up with here. He begins by saying that as guardians over our children, again, it's going to fall upon us as parents, especially you women. I know a lot of you sisters are into the world. You know, what do I mean by that? Trying to work, trying to go to school so you can blend into society and be like the Kafir women. No, remember, your priorities is your husband and your children. As the prophet said, each and every one of us is a guardian. The woman is the guardian over her husband's home and children. So Allah is going to ask you sisters, all of us women, you know, about the upbringing and the well-being of our kids. What role did we play in shaping their values? What role did we play in developing their understanding of the world? What role did we have in getting them to understand and believe La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah? Never leave your children to themselves. Never leave your children to the kafir. Never put the lives of your children in the hands of anyone other than yourself, because you are held accountable. So we're living in a world today, thanks to the Muslims. I'm going to have to keep it real. All you Muslims in America that voted for Obama, you can give yourself a pat on the back, because thanks to you, you helped to pass the LGBTQ laws and issues. You helped to pass the laws allowing same-sex marriage. Because of you, those laws on feminism and gender rights was passed. So all you Muslims in America can give yourselves a hand and a pat on the back. And you're going to answer to Allah for that. And you can't say you didn't know, because I've told you guys you ain't supposed to be voting, that it's haram. And not just me. Sheikh Kareem Abu Zayd spoke out against it too. Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Atlee spoke out against it too. But we the crazy ones. Y'all didn't listen to none of us. Y'all listened to those compassionate imams. Y'all listened to those Harvard graduates who told y'all that it's about having a voice, even though Allah says in the Quran that the non-believers will never have your interests at heart. Their only desire is to destroy you. But since you didn't listen, you can give yourself a pat on the back for passing the LGBTQ laws. So it falls upon us as parents to try to navigate our children through this, because the kids are going to be exposed to this. As you guys can see, all television programs have at least one LGBTQ character. Even the books we're reading, the school books that your children will be reading to learn how to read will have at least one LGBTQ character. The cartoons that your children are watching will have an LGBTQ character. Even the comics like Marvel, They made Deadpool LGBTQ. They made the Green Lantern LGBTKQ. So what Sheikh Kareem has done is he's come up with some guidelines or some measures that we parents can consider to help navigate our children through this. And number one, of course, initiate regular conversations. What does that mean? We need to talk about this with our children. We need to let our children know that even though the books have LGBTQ people on there, the television shows, the cartoons have it, still that this is something that contradicts our morals. You have to let the children understand that Allah destroyed a whole nation of people. He destroyed a whole nation of people for this, that this is an abomination against him and his laws. So we need to set aside some time for family discussions about this topic. Ask your children, are there children in their classes that are LGBTQ or gender pronoun, whatever this pronoun crap they use? And then tell your children that we don't fall into that. We don't adapt that pronoun mentality and stuff. Okay? Also, you want to try to create a safe space for your children too. Designate a comfortable environment where your children can feel free to express themselves without fear of you judging them, without fear of you punishing them. You want to make it so the kids can ask you questions about this pronoun stuff and this LGBTQ and why are these two men together and all that. And listen to what your kids have to say. When your children come home and talk to you about things that happen, listen to them. Listen to what they say. Share, when they share their thoughts with you, let them know that they're being heard. Okay, and that what they think and what they feel is important. And encourage your children to be curious. Inspire them to ask questions about certain topics, including those topics of gender issues. You know, I've always found it amazing as a daya how so many Muslim girls don't know about a menses. They grow up and get married and become women with babies, and the women don't know what a menses is. And I would ask them, your parents never talked to you about this? Oh, no, in my culture, it's not something that we talk about. That's the problem. Your culture is Islam. And I want you women to understand you have to break that stereotype. You should not be afraid to talk about sexuality with your children. You should not be ashamed to discuss sexuality with them because they're going to hear about it. They're going to learn about it from the people around them because America is a sexual environment. Everything here is sexual. So it's best they learn from you than learning from the outsiders. And again, when you do discuss these issues with your children, sexual issues, same-sex issues, provide accurate information. Don't tell your children stuff that's not true to try to scare them. Let them know the truth. You know, be accurate. You know, don't sit there and make them think stuff that's not correct. And again, always be respectable with your children. Address whatever their concerns are with empathy and give them the guidance they need. So again, guys, this is the reality. Our children are living in an environment, and not just America, because America was the one country, the first country to pass the law allowing same-sex marriage. But now other countries have passed that law too. As I shared with you guys last week, it was all in the news about the first two lesbian Somali women who were married in Somalia. So even in the Muslim land, they're allowing this. Also in the Emirates, they allow people to be free to be LGBTQ in the Emirates too. So even in the Muslim lands, you know, this is becoming an issue. So we're going to have to not be afraid to talk about it with our kids. You want to educate them about the Islamic way of doing things. You want to educate them about the importance of family and morality in Islam. How Allah didn't make Steve. How instead Allah made Eve. You got to explain it to the kids. If Allah wanted same-sex marriage, he wouldn't have created Adam and Eve. He would have created Adam and Steve, but he didn't. You know, so, and again, always use appropriate resources. And you want to make sure that the resources you use are age appropriate based on whatever age the kid is. Always use hadiths and Quran. Always use stories and perspectives from the Quran and from the Sunnah. And encourage your children to think critically. Does everybody understand that? And also, you want to highlight when you're talking with your children about sexuality, you want to highlight certain universal things too. You want to emphasize Islam's universal values of justice. You want to emphasize Islam's universal values of kindness and respect. Even though we do not support LGBTQ, that does not mean that you go to school and you become abusive towards someone that is that way. So you don't want to, you want your kids to know, even though their lifestyle is in total contradiction to ours, that doesn't mean that we go around being unkind to them. Instead, we distance ourselves. That's what Wal Bara is all about. You know that this child belongs to the LGBTQ community, then you distance yourself from that child. You try to not have any involvement with him or any involvement with her, but you don't go around name calling them or any of that. And also discuss real life scenarios with your children. The same way I give you guys examples that you can relate to, give your children examples that they can relate to that will offer a way to get them to deal with and understand the difference of the people around us. And again, never be afraid. Never be afraid. Never be afraid to answer their questions. Never think the child is being disrespectful for asking a question either. Because that child, you know, could be experiencing something that you need to know about. Okay? And again, it all begins with strengthening our faith, strengthening our values. And the only way you're going to do that is by you, as a parent, being active in your children's lives. You should know who your children's friends are. You should know what your children's interests are. You should have a relationship with them where you can talk with them. And you have to instill in your children the same values that our Prophet Muhammad tried to instill in us. You want to train your children to worship Allah. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, teach your kids to pray and to fast and to wear hijab when they're 7. What does that hadith mean? That means make your children pray. Make your children wear hijab. Don't wait till your daughters are puberty. It's too late. Your daughter should be wearing abayas and hijabs when they're 7 years old. Your sons should be wearing kufis and thobes when they're 7 years old. So by the time puberty hits them, it's a part of their regular life. It's no problem. And you should have your kids praying all 5 prayers at home with you. If you got sons, your sons should be going to the mosque with their father at the age of 7. Their father should be taking them to the Juma prayer, to the mosque to do the prayers. And you should be having your daughters pray with you. Have them make wudu, put on hijab, and come pray with you. So encourage engagement of the prayers. Also the reading of the Quran, the reading of the hadiths. Make your children participate in these classes I teach. Every day at 6 o'clock and at 9:30, put that television on and make those kids sit there and listen to Layla Nashiba so they can take notes and learn. And remember, you are your children's example. And also share stories with your children about the best of mankind. And who were the best of mankind? The prophets of Allah. Teach your kids the story of Mary, alayhi salam, Jesus' mother. The story of Imran. Teach them about Moses, about Jesus, Abraham, Lot, Sarah. Teach them about the companions of the prophet, the female heroines of Islam. Because this stuff is dying. They don't know anything about them. They think the world is Wonder Woman. They think the world is Spider-Man, Batman, Catwoman. Share with them the stories of the best of this nation, who were the prophets of Allah and the companions of the prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And always engage in family discussions about Islam. A lot of us only talk about Islam during the month of Ramadan. We only sit down to discuss Islam during Ramadan. Then when Ramadan's over, we take off our hijabs, we shave off our beards, and we go back to the life of this world. Like I told you guys during Ramadan, we should all get in the habit of sitting down having dinner together. Back in my day, there was a famous show called The Waltons. Everybody wanted to be a Walton. The Waltons all had different jobs and lifestyles. But I don't care what Ma and Pa had to do and Grandma and what Jim Bob and Jim Bo did. They knew dinner time was 6 o'clock every day. And they'd all be at that dinner table eating and discussing, their beliefs. That's what we should do. How many of us sit down as a family and eat together and speak about Islam? We only do it during Ramadan. This should be every day of the year. And always encourage your children, to read the stories of the Quran. There's so many inspiring, beautiful stories in the Quran. When I was a kid, I grew up off of the story of Solomon, because that's where my family come from. My family come from the tribe of Saba Ur. So I loved reading about Saba Ur, and the story of Solomon, the story of the people of the village, the people of the cave. Sit down with your kids and reflect on the Quranic stories on the Quran, because there's lessons to be learned. And again, have your children join you in the classes at the mosque. Join you in whatever classes that you're taking here at this website. And always teach them the virtues of patience. Let them know that the world is a crazy place. But in order to get through this world, it's going to require patience. We're going to be exposed to a lot of things that are bad, a lot of things that we don't like, but we have to implement patience. And again, emphasize kindness to them and humility to them. Let them know the dangers of arrogance, the dangers of looking down on other people, and always emphasize respect. Respect your elders. Respect your parents. and teach your children to do good deeds of charity. So these are some things that we can do as Muslims to help curtail what society's trying to push out about sexuality to our children.